Employment Rights Act 2025. The big question, the big thing.
The big one that
2026.
yeah, everyone's talking about.
So start us off. What are the headline changes coming through?
So I'll split this into two. There's the changes that came into effect in April this year, that we're all having to advise on and get to grips with now. And then there's the other changes that are coming down the road in 2027. So let's just start off with the ones that came into effect in April this year.
Yeah.
So I'm not going to go into chapter and verse in this environment. If you want to get into more information about specifics and how it's going to affect you and your staff directly, then please go and speak to our advisors and get specific advice. But overall, statutory sick pay used to be only eligible after 4 days of sickness, and there used to be an earnings threshold. You needed over a certain level in order to be eligible for SSP. That's now changed. It's now a day one right. You get, if you're even off sick for just 1 day, you now get statutory sick pay. And there is now no threshold for payment. So many, many more people are now eligible for statutory sick pay. People who work very few hours or people who are on lower pay. So that's the first kind of primary one that we think we've been getting most of the calls on. The second one is that paternity leave is now a day one right as well. Used to have a 6-month service at a certain point in the pregnancy to be eligible, and that's now day one. There is no eligibility requirements for paternity leave, but the statutory paternity pay threshold is still there.
Perfect.
So there is a slight difference there. And parental leave, the unpaid parental leave, used to have a 1 year threshold. That's now a day one right as well. So one of the key elements of the Employment Rights Act was they wanted to reduce anything that really was a barrier to people achieving it based on length of service. So you'll notice that number of things are day one rights.
Yeah.
Similar, we noticed things like flexible working in the last few years. That's also become a day one right as well. Yeah. So there's been a real direction of travel there to try and make things immediate rather than having to wait. So those are the ones that I think are the primary ones at this point. There's other things like sexual harassment has been added to whistleblowing as its own as a specific category in its own right. And there's now parental bereavement leave as well, which hopefully we never have to use. But if your partner has died within the first year of a baby's life, you get 52 weeks leave. So if you want more details on that, you can absolutely give us a call and discuss that. But so that's the ones that have the key ones that have come into effect in April this year. Next year, the big one is that the threshold for unfair dismissal has been reduced from 2 years to 6 months.
Yeah.
So essentially, anyone who is employed from January this year, as soon as they hit January 2027, they will have unfair dismissal protection. So whilst the overall rights haven't changed, the time in which you suddenly become eligible for them has changed dramatically. So when people are employing people thinking, oh, well, I've got 2 years to decide whether this person is actually suitable for my business or not, you now only got 6 months. So you've now got to really focus your mind, and is this person right? And we could discuss that further down, how people deal with it.
And I think something in respect to that one says that being a big one, as you say, although it's not come into effect yet, you need to start planning now because you're thinking potentially about taking on new staff members, however it may be. It'll be July this year.
Well, July this year, yeah.
From that point of July onwards.
So if you're starting to recruit now,
start thinking about,
well, what's my probationary period going to be? How am I going to monitor these people? What sort of schedules am I going to do in terms of training over that period? So when January does come, and I might need to make a decision, because you always recruit people thinking, well, we're going to have them forever.
Yes.
But when you run any business, it is a risk, it's an investment, it's got to be right.
Yeah.
And now you just won't have that same leeway that you did before. And you used to almost be, in effect, an 18-month probation, a 24-month probationary period for people.
Yes.
Because it's realistically, the employer could always just say, well, provided it wasn't for a discriminatory reason, I can just say it's not working out. We won't have that same luxury now.
No, the length of time, as you say, because people tend to, certainly in our sort of the hair and beauty sectors, you give you a 3-month probation. I mean, might just expend that for another 3 months. Well, actually, that 6 months is done then. So you've really got to think
You've really got to think about it.
3 months as to what you're.
Yeah. So a lot of people did have a 6-month probationary period, depending on the sector. We would now absolutely advise that that's now 3 months. With the option to extend to 4 and 5 if you need to have you still within that 6-month period before you can decide to make a decision. Now, but there's some cases where somebody's been there 8, 9, 10 months, and you've decided, look, we're going to have to think about how we manage this employee, but you just won't be able to make a more commercial decision to end that person's employment anymore. You would have to go through the different stages of warnings and probation and performance management and all the rest of it, which can take time. So it's just something that's going to think, if you want to be able to make a commercial decision, as hard as that may be, you just have a much shorter time period to do it. So it really focuses the mind.
Yeah. And I think, again, just bringing it back is that the members have access to the 24/7 helplines. They've got that help and support, that the team can help them through that process, whether it's performance management, whether it's terminating, exiting from the contract, etc. So that's so 3 practical steps. So we talked about, as well, sort of day-to-day practices, small businesses. Is there anything else that you need to add in respect to the Employment Rights Act, you think this?
So I think it's absolutely a case. Just educate yourself in the first instance. Not a lot of it is particularly complicated. It is either just removing thresholds, lowering thresholds. And if you do just want clarity on it, read up on it first. We have guides on the websites. Because it's been such a high-profile thing, there's been heaps of articles on it online if you want to just read some really good guides as well. ACAS have done guides. I know People Management have done guides on it as well. And just explaining what you need to do. And it is actually really, often these things can be a little bit lost because it's a little bit niche. But in this case, it has been so high-profile. There's lots written about it. If you want to speak to our advisors, absolutely do so if you have a specific case. So first of all, educate yourself. There's plenty out there, and it is important that we get it right. Second point is to update your policies. Again, there's plenty on there. We can help you with that. And we'll just need to, it's about changing a few words here and there. It's not necessarily about full-scale changes. Like, for example, like the parental bereavement leave is a brand new policy. So that will need to be added in. But everything else is just removing things like 4 waiting days for SSP and thresholds and things like that. So it's not massive changes, but they're all small ones. And make your employees aware. Doesn't need to be, you don't need to reissue everything to everyone. Maybe just an email just to say, look, just make you aware that statutory sick pay has now changed. Or things like if you may not be aware that you're now eligible for paternity leave from day 1. Just things like that, just so that there's no suggestion that you're not keeping your
clear lines of communication.
So
they know what to expect.
So know what to expect. And so by the time, 6, 8, 10 months down the line, it almost becomes not normal. We forget that you had to wait 4 days to get paid SSP. It just becomes a natural.
And most of that's picked up by payroll anyway. At the end of the day, as payroll providers will
Yeah, well, that's certainly my
press the button.
Well, that's certainly my response. That's a payroll question, not an employment law question.
That's right. Oh, I think that's everything. Employment Rights Act for 2025, or in respect to 2020.
I would say so. I would say so for now. I would say there is quite a bit. So go in and read it, and speak to our advisors and yourselves if you have any further questions. But broadly, I think that's it.
Yeah, and don't panic.
And
We've got your back.
Don't panic. Don't panic.